Today's short is being brought to you by Goya Foods. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
Your daily game plan for success. It's Sachs in the Morning. Steve Sachs.
Hi, Steve Sachs here with Sachs in the Morning, and today is Tuesday, the 18th. What a beautiful day it is today. And this week we're talking about fear, and this is an important subject because all of us face it, all of us are going to be in it, and how we deal with it is the key. This week we are highlighting my good friend Patti Palamidessi, who wrote the book, The Other Four-Letter Word. What an incredible story you're going to hear on Thursday right from her mouth. She's going to tell you some things that are going to be shocking. And so I really encourage you to listen on Thursday. But what I also wanted to do was go through and give you kind of a litany of things today that this lady has been facing her whole life. That a lot of these things are the underpinning of what you're going to hear on Thursday that you may not hear directly. So I wanted to share those with you today, okay? But here's a few things about Patti Palamidessi. So Patti was diagnosed with epilepsy when she was 16 years old. She actually started having her first seizures when she was just 2. And it would start in the form of what we call auras. Now, auras manifest themselves into later on to be the signals of an upcoming seizure that can be really drastic. Sometimes they become their own seizures and can put you in a daze, can give you loss of memory, can do things like that, and they can become worse and worse. So here's a few other things that you may not know about Patti. So her auras continued to get worse, and she had to try all sorts of cocktails of medication. One medication would make her so lethargic and tired that the only way she could keep up her energy was in high sugar, high caloric foods that caused her to gain a lot of weight. Another medication caused her to fiercely vomit and caused her to lose a debilitating amount of weight. Now, her younger brother, Danny, was nearly killed in a car accident when he was 16. And several years later, that same brother, Danny, was diagnosed with leukemia. Danny was almost like a son to Patti, and he eventually lost his battle with cancer at the age of 28. Now, her epilepsy led to the difficult decision that she could not have children, and that was made easier when she was diagnosed with endometriosis and had a hysterectomy at age 28, hoping that it might improve her symptoms of auras. Eventually, she underwent an experimental brain surgery to monitor the parts of her brain that were affected by epilepsy. That led to another brain surgery where the doctors removed 70% of her hippocampus and 40% of her amygdala. Because the hippocampus is a memory center of her brain, she had to learn to read and write. She had to learn the names of her family members. And because the amygdala controls the fear, she was in constant fear of something terrible happening. But she adapted. She told herself that the reason she had surgery was for her life to improve, and she was determined for that to be the outcome. Now, years later, after a pretty miraculous recovery and starting a new venture, taking people on tours to Italy, she was diagnosed with stage 2 kidney cancer, but she whipped that too. And as you'll hear Thursday, Patti is enjoying an amazing life, full of joy and faith and rich experiences. And I can tell you from knowing this lady since I was, 15 years old when I was working at the restaurant where she worked, and she was my boss. She is an amazing person. I really never even knew that she was experiencing all these maladies. I didn't even know that she was going to have brain surgery. Never knew that she had kidney cancer. The strength of Patti is absolutely unconscionable, how strong she is. Always had a big smile on her face, very beautiful woman, and never showed it. To me, Patti wasn't experiencing fear, but obviously she was, so she was hiding it pretty darn well. The strength of her is amazing to me. So in closing, what I'd like to do is I'd like to read an excerpt from her book. This is a note to her readers at the end of her book. This kind of sums it up a little bit and what her mindset was. So this is what she wrote to her readers. Although it took me many years, I have found courage and a life I can live with determination and self-reliance. Despite the many challenges that I have faced along my journey, I have found my soul's purpose in life, and I have learned the true meaning of self-love. Please realize that even if this is a big world we live in, we need to be comfortable with our own lives. Don't give yourself to the rest of the world. Our thoughts and our happiness comes from within ourselves. That is where we find true happiness. Take care of you first. And remember, taking care of yourself first is not being selfish. It is being smart. You will accept, respect, and enjoy each day with less stress. Don't look for others to fulfill your happiness because you can find it from within. When you appreciate the simple things you do each moment of your day, life becomes easier. And that's my short for today. If you like what you heard, give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. Also, remember that the Sax in the Morning swag is now available on my Instagram site. Go to saxinthemorning_podcast. You'll see it right there on the Instagram, and just hit the link. Everything's there, mugs, hats, tumblers, you name it. Take advantage of it. And thanks to Al Hendrickson Toyota for their support of this podcast. And be sure to visit alhendricksontoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.